Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to another Friday workshop. Okay, so CIF is, let me pull the chart up here. We're going to go back to last week's workshop, and we were working with trigger lines. Alright, here we go. So let me shrink this up. Alright, so for anybody that wasn't here last week, we were using these EMA trigger lines, and these trigger lines are a term that came from John Novak over at NextGen software. And basically what they are trigger lines are paired moving average. So they're a form of a moving average, and they're always in pairs. So this slower set of moving averages are called the large triggers, and this faster set of moving averages are called the small triggers. So what we did is we built a system where if the small triggers failed to cross the large triggers, then it would generate a signal. And so a CIF, let's see. Okay, there we go. Alright, so CIF has clarified that so when we get the rejection signal, you actually like to wait for the indicator to change color. So just to clarify, colors cannot be read by indicators. So that feature's not capable. There's no let's see. NinjaTrader is just not capable of having an indicator like BloodHound read another indicator's color. But luckily, we can see that this indicator changes color when the moving averages cross over. So we can build a crossover. We can build or we can look for a crossover, and so that crossover will tell us when the indicator changes colors. So we can do that. Let's see. All right. So let's look for a signal. There we go. There's a signal on a chart. So let's work with this. All right. So we can see that we got two short, rejection signals here, right? So the small triggers were moving up to the large triggers up here, but they, they basically failed to cross the large triggers, and basically it's what we're coining as a rejection. So a CIF would like to wait until the small triggers here cross over each other and change colors before we actually get the signal there. That shouldn't be too hard to do. Alright, well, before I get started, let me just kind of check the board here, see if there's any comments from a CIF before I get started here. Alright, good. Thanks, a CIF. Alright, so yeah, so CIF had explained to me that he tried using a crossover solver to detect that crossover when the small triggers change colors, but couldn't get it to work. So, and my guess would be the reason why is we had to take this rejection signal and extend it forward enough bars until we actually get the crossover to occur, like so. Right? So because let's see, what should I use? Here we go. Yeah, so this is the bar where the crossover actually occurs. So we have to take, this. So since we're going to actually wait for the indicator to change colors, we're waiting for the indicator to cross over like this, right? So now this rejection signal actually kind of becomes like a setup. So so this is like kind of condition one, is that the small triggers basically reject the large triggers, or fail to cross the large triggers, and that's kind of condition one. and then we have to wait for the small triggers to cross over each other to actually get the final trade signal. And so, and let's see if I can find some text. Here we go. And let me make this text a little bigger. See how that works there. There we go. All right, so this short signal that we have here is condition number 1, and then when the small triggers cross over each other and change colors, that's condition number 2. So whenever you're working with, whenever you're building a system like that, we had to find a way to take the signal here from condition number 1 and shift it forward, however many bars are necessary until we get to until condition number 2 fires off. So that's going to be the key to getting this to work, to waiting until we get the small triggers crossing over each other. So let's see. Let me take a look on some other places down the chart here. All right. Here's another situation. Interesting. We got 2 signals here. The first one, the first signal here is definitely our rejection here. So we can see the small trigger moved up and then basically kind of reversed down on us. And so we actually want to wait until we get the small triggers crossing over each other. So it's just kind of coincidence that we actually got another short signal here. And that's probably, well, that would be because, yeah, it looks like the small trigger is basically sloped up again. So yeah, sloped up again, and then basically reversed back down, and then crossed over the second time here. But my point is that basically, this is condition number 1, and we need to take, this signal here. Oh, let me get that off. So we need to take this signal here, and we need to shift it forward until we get the small triggers crossing over each other. So that's going to be the key to this. So here's another. So when you're trying to what's the right word here? When you're needing to take like condition 1 and extending it forward until condition 2 happens, you have to make a couple of arbitrary decisions. Obviously we wouldn't want to take condition 1 and extend it forward forever, because then you're just going to get a bunch of false signals. Eventually when condition 1 happens, either condition 2 is going to need to happen fairly soon, or condition 2 is just going to fail, and so you don't want to keep extending condition 1 forward. All right, so you need to develop some kind of reset functionality so that condition 1 doesn't get extended forever. So a simple way to do that is we could just say, okay, just take condition 1 and extend it forward, for 8 or 10 bars only. So in other words, condition 2, so this crossover, of the small triggers would have to happen within, 8 bars. And if it doesn't, then basically the whole trade setup just kind of fails, and you just wait for the next one. So that's an easy way to basically to make sure that condition 1 doesn't extend forward forever. Because if we took condition 1 and extended it forward forever, eventually these small triggers are going to cross each other, but it may not be. But the trade setup as a whole, may not be what you're wanting. May not be the right type of setup anymore. And okay, so one way is to just extend condition 1 by a fixed number of bars. Another way is you can extend a condition 1 basically indefinitely, but you have to look for some kind of indicator situation. So you have to find some kind of indicator condition that basically negates or disqualifies condition number 1, so that you can reset condition number 1 so it's not extending forward anymore. So let's see. So for this, I guess what we'll do is I'll extend. Since this took 4 bars, what we'll do is we'll give condition 1, basically a 5-bar chance of the small triggers crossing over each other. I guess to me that kind of makes sense that if the small triggers are rejecting the large triggers, that the small triggers should be rolling over fairly quickly for that to happen. If it takes more than 5 bars, then I guess sometimes you have to just kind of make an assumption, an arbitrary decision. But if the small triggers don't roll over fairly soon, then there's a good chance that probably price is just kind of chopping around and price is a little wishy-washy. I think the purpose of this kind of trade setup is that we're looking for these small reversals in price. So we can see that on these Renko bars here, we got this small little retracement in price before price just rolled over again and failed. And that's kind of what I think these rejection, this rejection kind of signal is looking for. Is right? You get a few retracements in price, a few bars of retracements in price, and then basically price rolls back over and continues on with the current trend direction. All right. So let's see here. It's not like we really didn't get a long downtrend here, but I think that's kind of what the goal of this system is probably trying to do is find these kind of little counter trends, these small little pullbacks in price, and then price continues on with the trend. So if that is the case, then this condition 1, which finds the rejection of the small triggers should roll over probably fairly quickly, I would think. So, all right. So before I get started here, let me take a look and see what SIF has to say here. All right. So we'll get started on that. And yeah, I guess I'll just work right here on this spot. So. All right, so this chart was from last week, and so we already have the system already built. So if you missed last week, the video should be up soon, and you can see how that was built. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's see, yeah, I'm going to take this BloodHound file here, and I'm going to change the name for this week. So I'll just hit the change button here, and that's going to bring the Save As dialog box up. And so I can select on last week's file name and just put in today's date. Alright, so there's the file name for this week. Alright, let's see. Alright, and it just so happens we're on the correct logic template. So let's see. After this workshop is over, I will go through and delete these other two logic templates if we don't use them today. So just to eliminate confusion. So, all right, so see, this kind of small trigger rejection of the large triggers. Basically, what I called it was just, moving average fails to cross. So that's the logic template we're working in here. So you can see that this is a fairly simple system. We're just having to kind of check a couple of conditions on the large triggers and small triggers. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is essentially what's coming out of this AND node here, right? That's condition number 1. That's condition number 1. So I'm going to rename this AND node, and I'll just rename it like number 1. And I'll put a little more word in there. All right. So it's the number 1 condition, and so we will basically take the output from this AND node, and we just need to extend it forward a certain number of bars. See, so the easiest way I can do that is just to use the signal extender, and looking at the signal extender, it's going to extend the signal for 5 bars. So that's the default setting, is this extend it forward for 5 bars. So let's just connect that in there like so, and there we go. So it took the output that was on this bar, marked by the single diamond, all right, extended it 5 bars, and then it took the next signal, or the next output, marked by these 2 diamonds, and extended them forward 5 bars. So this got extended a little further than wanted, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem here. All right, so we've got our condition 1 extended forward. Pretty straightforward. Now the next thing we need to do is look for condition number 2, which is the crossing over of the small triggers like that. So let's see. I'm going to see if I already have a crossover solver built. And no, it doesn't look like I built a crossover solver for the small triggers. So let's build a new crossover solver. All right, so there we go. Indicator crossover. So I'm going to connect that up. All right, so this is going to be the small trigger crossover. So the next step is I have to put, the small triggers is a pair of moving averages. So I'm going to set indicator A to the faster moving average of the small triggers, and I'll set indicator B to the slower moving average of the small triggers. Alright, so this is a, we are using a custom indicator that's available on Big Mike's, and I also believe it's available on Daniel Rowe's website, which is trade-the-plan.com. And so we're using the ANA trigger lines. Alright, so I can't actually use NextGen's trigger lines because I don't have them loaded up, and you guys probably don't want to have to pay for those third-party indicators. So just so you guys know, I don't actually use third-party vendor indicators in these workshops because no one else will have those indicators, right? So I won't use any indicator that you have to pay for in these workshops. Only ones that are available for free on Big Mike's or on NinjaTrader's site. So, alright, select the trigger lines, and the small triggers use a setting of 20 and 5. And if we look down here in the plots, the trigger line, the trigger plot is the faster moving average, and then the trigger average is the slower. All right, so the slower moving average is an average of the trigger line. So, all right, so we're putting the faster one in indicator A. So now we'll drop down here to indicator B and basically repeat the same thing. Go find the ANA trigger lines. Right, change my settings so that they become the small triggers. And now I'm going to use the slower moving average, like so. Alright, so there we go. We're getting whenever the small triggers cross each other, we're getting those marked now. Right. So now, right, we're going to take this extension of condition 1 and join it together with the crossover here. So we're going to use an AND node to do that. Alright, so if we take a look at the AND node, we're still just looking at, right, the extension of condition 1. And as soon as I connect up this crossover, it's going to filter them all out, and so we actually get just one signal when we get the small triggers crossing over and we get condition 1 being extended forward in time. Alright, so let's take a look at this. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chart, and yeah, there we go. So looks like we got this one's working good. So I think condition 1 probably happened on this bar. So I can see right there is where the small trigger basically reversed down. It rolled over, reversed down. And then we got the crossover. All right, so that looks good. And, oh, okay, yeah, actually there was nothing here because, yeah, I remember now, we actually had some kind of a distance requirement here. So the small triggers, let's see, the small triggers had to be a certain distance away from the large triggers. So I think the small trigger was too far away for that to happen. So, and yeah, so there we go. So this rejection here got cleaned up. And let's see, there's another, let's see what's going on here. Let's see if, we'll see if condition 1 happened right there on that bar. So what we can do is we can take our AND node and connect it up to the result node like that. And okay, so actually there was there was no rejection. So I guess once again the small triggers were too far away from the large triggers to be considered a kind of a rejection of the large triggers. You know. All right, so let's keep looking. And all right, here we go. So good. Looks like both of these spots that I found earlier are working. So here's condition 2 as I had marked it previously. And so we get the signal on the crossover. And same over here, we got the signal on the crossover. And let's see, I think I bet you right here this was probably condition number 1. Let's take a look. Yeah, so there we go. We had a rejection to the upside, but the small triggers failed to cross each other and cross up, so no signal there. So, all right, well, Asif, so I think that was just kind of the key. I think that was just kind of the key piece that you're missing is just the signal extender, right? So you just kind of have to decide, how many bars do you want to, extend condition number 1 forward for, to kind of keep, keep your final trade signals kind of nice and clean, right? So I guess just to clarify to people that BloodHound doesn't actually see the indicators on your chart, right? So you can put whatever indicators you want on the chart, and there's no way for BloodHound to know what indicators are on your chart, right? So to kind of give you an example, let's say I take this small trigger indicator, right? And so the settings are typically 20 and 5. But let's say I go 20 and 20, or 20 and 20, like that. So, right, so this is the indicator, Ninja's indicator window. So I'm modifying the short trigger line to 20 and 20. And right, so it really kind of changed the small triggers. Now, if I go in here into BloodHound, if I look at one of the solvers here, right? So I can see this solver here. I named it the small trigger crossover. However, I can see that my trigger lines are still 20 and 5, 20 and 5. So BloodHound's not reading the indicators on your chart. You actually have to tell BloodHound how your indicators are set up on your chart. So Kirk, hopefully that kind of clarifies things there. So Kirk, if the EMA is not smoothing the CCI, then the EMA must be working on price. And so therefore, all right, so let's see, that's an SMA. All right, let me take an EMA. All right, so I have an EMA 34 on the chart, and let me also add a CCI to this chart. All right, something like that. Actually, I'll just keep it the default there. 14, good enough. All right, so let's move this up. Right, now if I take my EMA and just move it down onto there, this EMA is not, it's still using price. So if I look at, right, if I look on the left here of my chart, right, I can see the values for my EMA. The EMA is not actually crossing the 0 line. It's, because the value of the EMA is still up here at 18,242. let's see. So let's see. Okay, so Kirk, when you say tie the EMA to the CCI, what do you mean? Are you changing the input series? Okay, yeah. So you are smoothing the EMA. I mean, you are smoothing the CCI. So when you feed the CCI into the input series, that is smoothing the CCI. Okay, so that makes sense. All right. Yeah. All right. So let's feed the CCI data into the EMA. Right. Okay, CCI, and I just used a 14 on my chart. All right, so we are smoothing the CCI. We're applying a moving average to the CCI, and there we go. That makes okay. Actually, let me also change the scale justification. I need to put it back to the right side. All right, there we go. Okay, so the term for this, Kirk, is called nesting. So what we did is we took the CCI, the data from the CCI, and we nested it into the EMA, to the moving average, like so. All right, so, and Kirk, it doesn't matter if it's lines or bars. You know, that's just visual for us, right? Computers don't care if it's a line or bars. All the computer just sees is, 1, 2, 3, and 10, and the computer just sees numerical values. So it doesn't matter if it's bars or lines. So now I understand your question here. So let me kind of build a simple example. Let's say, okay, so you had mentioned the EMA like crossing the zero line or something like that. So I can show you a couple examples of how we can get BloodHound to recognize these EMA values. So in other words, the EMA of the CCI, right? So once again, that's called nesting. So we can do nesting inside of BloodHound here. So I'll open up BloodHound. And let me make a new logic template here to work in. So, all right, yeah, I guess good enough. All right, so let's look for a couple of crossover conditions here. We'll build a couple of these for just to give you an example here. All right, so the first one I'll build for you is the EMA crossing the zero line of the CCI there, right? So we're going to take indicator A is going to be our EMA, and indicator B will be the zero line. So let's set this up here. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go find our EMA. Right, and let's see what we were using a 34. All right, so we have our EMA 34 set up, and now the next thing is go find our CCI, and you just do a single click, right? We just want to highlight it. So just one click to highlight it, and now you'll see this nesting button turns black, right? So the nesting button is enabled now, so we can nest it. So now we can see we're taking the CCI data, feeding it into the EMA. And so that's how we can do what we just did on the chart. That's how you do it in BloodHound, right? And if I want to get really crazy, I could then take the DM indicator and nest that into the CCI, right? So I got the DM feeding the CCI, feeding the EMA. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff here. So, but that's how you do that. So, so let's see, let's give another example here. So let's say we wanted to do like a triple EMA. I can take that EMA, nest it in there again, select that EMA, select the EMA from the master list, nest it in again, and I could create myself a triple EMA, like so. All right, so there's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. So let's put this back to the normal here. Right. Good. So then, yeah, let me point this out. So you notice how I selected my CCI, but my nested input button is disabled. So if that happens, you need to select your indicator down here first. So get that highlighted, and then go back up here, do a single click, and now you can see that nested button is now enabled. So we'll enable that. And let's see, I was using a 14 CCI into the EMA, and there. Okay, so there we go. So our EMA is set up correctly now. So the next step is to set up the zero line. So indicator B, the zero line is a fixed value, right? So we're going to use our fixed value here, and it's 0. The zero line has a value of 0, and so that's it. We're done. So let's take a look here. All right, so there's all the places where the EMA crosses that zero line, and if we wanted to say find when the EMA crosses the CCI, we can do something like that. So let's all right, so I'll just give this solver a name here. All right, we'll build another crossover. So actually, let's find when the CCI crosses the EMA, because the CCI is going to be the faster moving indicator. So I'll set indicator A to our CCI, like so. We're using a 14 period, so that's good. And then down here in indicator B, we'll set this to our EMA. Alright, so once again I need to select my EMA down here at the bottom, and then go select the indicator I want to nest into it, and then use the nested button like so. Alright, and I need to change my EMA to a 34 period. Right, so if you forget to change the periods of your indicators, all you have to do is just select on the indicator. So I can select the EMA, change the period. If I need to change the period of the CCI, I can select the CCI, change the period there. All right, like so. Let's see. Oh, another thing to note about this, right? The CCI, so the CCI and the EMA only have one plot. So this is pretty simple here, but some indicators like, yeah, so let's take the DM indicator. So, you know, what happens if I take the DM indicator and nest it in here? So when I select the DM indicator, I can see it has several plots here. So, so let's say let's say I wanted to use one of the DI plots of the DM indicator. You know, so this is what I can do. I can take the DI plus, and I can feed that into the CCI, which then gets fed into the EMA. So probably a more practical example might be the MACD, right? So let's take the MACD, right? So if I wanted to feed the MACD, you know, average into the CCI or something like that, that's how so you can take whatever plot you want and take that and nest it into the other indicators. Right? Okay, so let's get back to what we're really doing here. So the CCI 14 into the EMA 34, and there we go. That's it. So now we can see when the CCI is crossing that EMA there. All right, Kirk, so I hope that answers your question there. Okay, it looks like Kirk had one more question in here for me. All right, so we also want to test when the CCI is above or below the 0 line. All right, to filter out the let's see, longs and shorts. Let's see. All right, yeah. So we want to filter out the EMA crossing that 0 line by testing if the CCI is above or below 0. All right, we can do that. So let's open up BloodHound again. And hold on. Let me name this solver first. Okay. All right, so if we want to test whether an indicator is above or below the 0 line, the 0 line is like a threshold level, right? So we could also test to see if the CCI is above the 100 threshold level or negative 100 threshold level, right? So whenever an indicator has its own kind of scaling, such as the CCI, right? It has its own scaling from 0 to like 200 and 0 to negative 200. The MACD has its own scaling. The stochastics has its own scaling from 0 to 100. So when an indicator has its own scaling, when you're looking for an indicator to be above or below a certain level, that's called a threshold level. So we're going to use the threshold solver for that. So there we go, indicator threshold. So let's connect that in there. And let's change our indicator over to the CCI. All right, there we go, CCI. And we're using a threshold level of 0, right, for the 0 line, so we don't have to change any of these threshold values. So the next thing we need to do is just set up our outputs here. So I take it you're going to be looking for a long, kind of a long condition when the CCI is greater than 0. So we're going to set a 1 here. So if we look at this, you can see whenever the CCI is right above that 0 line. So now for shorts, we're going to look to see if the CCI is less than 0 here, or less than E. Like so. Alright, so there's that part. Let's name this solver first. And then the next step is just to connect these two together with an AND node. So if I just look at the AND node with only the crossover connected, right, I can see there's all my crossovers. And now when I connect my threshold solver, it's going to add a filtering to that and filter some of the stuff out here. So let's see if yeah, it looks like when we're using these Renko bars, yeah, we're not getting any kind of filtering. So the Renko bars really change the behavior of the CCI a lot. But if you're using this on a range chart, I'm sure you'll find some filtered out crossovers of the EMA there. But I think that should work. Let's see. All right, we'll throw a 5-minute on here. Yeah, I'm still not seeing any filtered out, but at the same time, Kirk, I'm not using the same period CCI as you're using. So, I'm sure if you make that adjustment on the CCI, you might see some filtered out results. But basically that's how you do it. Pretty simple. So I'll just leave this open here for you so you can take a look at it. Right. Okay. Great. Let's see. Let me try and I'll move on and try and find the next question here. Let's see, Andrew's asking, is it possible to create an OCO order using one of the solvers? No. And the reason why is because of the way NinjaTrader is set up. So indicators cannot create orders. Only a strategy can create orders. Right? So when you right click on your chart, right, you can see there's indicators and there's strategies. So only a strategy can actually send trade signals. So only a strategy can create OCO or any kind of other order, right? So BloodHound is an indicator. So BloodHound cannot submit orders or anything like that, right? So an OCO has to be done inside of a strategy, like so. And Raven, which comes with BloodHound, right, is the strategy for BloodHound. So no, Raven's not capable of making OCO orders. So that's what Falcon is going to be for, to give you all that advanced capabilities for managing the trades and whatnot. So what you can do though is in Raven. So right, let me add Raven down here. So in Raven, what you can do, right, if you want OCO orders and more advanced capabilities, you can use an ATM. Right, so ATMs use OCO orders, like so, right? So you can just change this manage trades using to an ATM, and then you can put your ATM name in there. And so that's how you can use OCO orders. All right, so Sif kind of has a generalized question here regarding BloodHound systems in general. So Sif is asking, all right, so when we build a BloodHound system on a certain time frame, should it work later on any other time frame? For example, like a Renko or a range or a tick? Not necessarily. It really all depends. So if you're building a system, yeah, actually, let me kind of go back to, yeah, since I have the 5-minute chart on here, right? If you look at these 5-minute bars, right, they're reversing direction all the time. All right, minute bars, behave a lot differently than Renko bars. So if your BloodHound system is looking for reversals in price, reversals in price on minute charts happen all the time, right? Like I get a down bar, and then an up bar, and then let's see, another down bar. Actually, hold on, let me change my color scheme around here. There we go. Okay, so the solid bars are down bars and the hollow ones are up bars. But the point is that you can see that minute bars reverse all the time. Now, if I change this to a Renko, let's see, let me just use the Pro Renko rule because it's quicker and easier. Right, now the reason why people like these kind of modified median Renkos is they don't reverse quite as often. So if you're building a kind of a reversal system looking for these Renko bars reversing, right, these bars just behave totally different than minute charts. So no, you're so they won't. So BloodHound, so some of your trading systems may not convert from a Renko to a tick-based or a minute-based type bar, right? Your trade conditions. If you build a trading idea based on Renko bars, and you're looking for reversals or other stuff, that there's a good chance that your trading rules may not translate onto a minute bar or a tick-based bar, just because the bars behave so much differently, right? With Renko bars, you get these long runs of bars all in the same direction, And of course, and then that also, here's a good example. Look at the CCI, right? When you indicators running on Renko type bars behave a lot differently because you get these long trend runs, and so that really can kind of skew the behavior of these indicators. And keep in mind, I'd say 99% of the indicators out there, they were all created when all there were minute charts, right? All these indicators are decades old. The math formula behind these indicators are decades old, and all there was back then was minute charts. Tick charts, Renko charts, volume charts, those are all brand new types of charts that came about with computerized trading. So it's just some history on that there. So yeah, so SIF, you may, if you take a system that was built for Renko bars and put it on a minute chart, you'll find that as you look at your indicators, you'll find that you're going to have to change your trading. You're just going to have to change your trading methodology, your trading rules a lot when you convert from different bar types. So with that, guys, I guess we'll wrap it up, and I'll say have a good weekend, have a fun weekend, enjoy the outdoors, and I hope to see you guys next Friday. All right, bye-bye, guys.